Hey, VCista here, and welcome back to the second half of the CDL Season 5 with my monograss team. So in the last video, you can watch, I have the link in the description below. However, if you didn't see, what ends up happening is I ended up starting off the season 3-1. And so I'm in very good positions to make playoffs. I think pretty much if I end up with 4 wins, I'm almost guaranteed playoffs, but 5 is 100% guaranteed to make playoffs. And so with that, let's get into our Week 5 match. Our Week 5 match is here. And looking at my opponent's team, they have some very concerning Pokemon. Namely, Crobat is very powerful into my team. Both of its stabs do massive damage. It also gets moves like U-Turn and Fire Coverage, which also are pretty useful and Tailwind as a means to get speed control. Other than that, they also have some pretty concerning Pokemon and things like Nidoqueen, which does massive damage into everything on my team, and even Pokemon like Colossal can do really big damage and be pretty annoying. So looking at my team, I don't have a great way to deal with Crobat other than maybe using some sort of Scarfmon. And so one of the big things I'm considering is probably something like Scarf, Roserade, and then something like Cottony also as a means to get some speed control. And so with that, we get into my team. So this is the team I ended up bringing. I brought pretty much the standard Cordelia with power of Meteor Beam and some other moves. We have Scarf, Roserade, which is one of the big Pokemon I'm expecting to use to maybe deal with a lead with a Crobat. So that and Cottony, for example, I can Fake Tears and Extrasensory and guaranteed one-shot a non-sash Crobat. Other than that, Cottony with Cotton Spore also can lower my opponent's speed, which lets me possibly outspeed them, especially if they don't have their Tailwind up. Next, we have the Bulu with the Kevia Berry, so it can survive like Sludge Bombs from Nidoqueen. Other than that, it just has some good offensive coverage for the team. We have Life Orb Rotom, namely does pretty big damage with the Thunderbolt and the Leaf Storm into most of the things, and then Foul Play kind of just hit some of the other Pokemon, namely the Haxorus. And then finally, we have Choice Band Virizion with Zen Headbutt, Grassy Glide, Close Combat, and Stone Edge. This does pretty good damage. You should be able to kill a lot of the Pokemon on my opponent's team, or at least do pretty good damage, especially with Tickle on Cottony, which lowers their defense. I think Tickle plus one of the super effective moves from Virizion should be able to one-shot any Pokemon that's not sashed or doesn't have like a resist berry. So with that, let's get into the match. Here we are for our first game. Look at my opponent's team. They have quite a few Pokemon I was expecting, mainly Haxorus, Crobat, Nidoqueen, Colossal, and Aegislash. I wasn't really expecting the Comfey, but it makes some amount of sense, especially if they expect me to have grassy terrain. So looking at this, I think the main lead I was expecting to go with was Cottony and Roserade as a means to hopefully one-shot some of the threatening Pokemon with Fake Tears and Extrasensory. And so with that, let's get into the match. So as you can see, I lead the Cottony and the Roserade. My opponent leads a Crobat and a Nidoqueen, which is, pretty much what I would expect. And so the main idea is when I target the Crobat, go for the Fake Tears and the Extrasensory. However, they reveal to be Focus Sash, which is really annoying. If they weren't Focus Sash, I'd be in amazing condition. However, with this, they are able to get a Sludge Bomb off into my Cottony and bring me down to Sash. And so here, they protect, which I think is honestly pretty good for me because I'm able to Cotton Spore, lower the Crobat speed, which lets me outspeed. And with that, I'm able to Extrasensory and do very good damage into the Crobat and kill it. Next up, they bring the Aegislash, and so here I decide to just go for the Fake Tears and the Nidoqueen to try to kill the Nidoqueen with Extrasensory. I knew I wasn't going to outspeed the Nidoqueen, but I was expecting to outspeed the Aegislash even in Tailwind, which is true, and I'm able to kill the Nidoqueen. And with this, they are able to just do a Shadow Claw into my Roserade, which does very good damage into Roserade, but luckily does not kill. And so here I just bring up Tapu Bulu. And Tapu Bulu, I'm just going to go for ground coverage and switch out into the Roserade so I can use it later. Actually, I forgot, actually protected so that I can stall out the last turn of Tailwind so that my Tapu Bulu will outspeed pretty much guaranteed. And so here I just go for an attack into the Aegislash with the Tapu Bulu and a Meteor Beam into the Colossal so that I can kill it with the Colossal. The high power source becomes a little bit awkward because I lower my attack. However, the Meteor Beam here does end up getting the one-hit KO into the Colossal, and I'm in pretty good position. So here we just go for the high horsepower and earth power. However, unluckily for me, I missed the high horsepower, which is really big, and the Sacred Sword is able to kill my Credilli. And so definitely a little awkward. However, with this, Roserade is able to come here, and I go for the Protect because I was expecting this sword, the King Shield, which ends up being the case. And the Shadow Ball just goes into the Aegis Slash. So here I just go for the double up again, which is just going to be another high horsepower Shadow Ball. And we do pretty good damage with the Shadow Ball. And we also do pretty good damage even with the -1 with the high horsepower. However, they are able to kill the Roserade with Shadow Claw. And so here I kind of do a little bit of a greedy decision, which is I go for the Protect again. However, they are able to King Shield and Protect, which means that they get into defensive mode. However, they are able to King Shield again, which allows for them to lower my attack again with the King Shield. However, I think I'm in good enough position to kill them, and with high horsepower, I do kill them from that range and get game 1. So it's definitely a lot closer than I felt like it should have been. I think a large part was because I missed that high horsepower, but I'm able to get a pretty clean game 1. So with that, let's get to game 2. So here we are for game 2. So game 1 definitely went well for me. However, it's a little bit awkward because my main lead that I want to do is which is Roserade Cottonee, which is a little bit awkward with the Focus Sash on the Crobat. And so I've just kind of thought about a couple different leads, and with that, let's just get straight into the match. I decided to go back with the Cottonee and the Roserade again, even though it's a little bit awkward because I don't think I have much better of an option. And with this, they bring the Crobat and Aegis Slash. And so here, they end up King Shielding the Aegis Slash, and I end up going for the little bit greedy of a play and going for the Fake Tears and Shadow Ball into the Aegis Slash, which ends up punishing me greatly because they're able to dual wing beat into my Roserade and get the clean one-hit KO. So if I would have just Cotton Sport into the Roserade and extra sensory, at least Crobat would have been to its Focus Sash. However, here I just go for the Cotton Sport to lower their speed a little bit and go for a Meteor Beam into the Crobat spot to get the special attack boost. In this situation, the Cotton Sport doesn't do too much because, however, here I just kind of go for the Protect and then another Cotton Spore so that my Cottonee should outspeed in the following turn. And the Cross Poison does massive damage, brings me back to Social Sash. However, it doesn't kill because they do just attack into Credilli, who protected. And so here I go for the Dazzling Gleam. However, sadly, they outspeed me despite them being at -4. This is actually a really awkward interaction where them being at -4 and Tailwind is actually them faster than -2 out of Tailwind. And that actually ends up being enough to outspeed me and getting that. So here I just go for the Double Protect. The Double Protect is going to allow me my Bulu to outspeed the Crobat the following turn. However, there's probably a good chance I probably should have attacked with the Credilli. However, with this, they are able to get the Poison Jab. However, the Kebia Berry lets me survive, and they get a Poison, which is pretty awkward. However, we get the high horsepower into the Haxorus and just barely miss out on the kill. And with this, we, however, are able to kill the Credilli. I mean, the Crobat with Credilli. So Haxorus surviving definitely was a big downside. I probably should have Stone Edged instead, or done some other higher damage move. But now with the Haxorus being not dead, I'm in very bad position. So here they just go for the Poison Jab into the Bulu and Earth Power into Credilli. Credilli is able to take that and kill the Haxorus. However, I really needed a Omni boost from the Ancient Power to have any chance of winning here because they do have Aegis Slash in the back. And with this, they can just Sludge Bomb and Sacred Sword and get the kill and get the win for this one. So that one definitely went a lot worse, but I think the large reason that went as bad as it did was because turn 1 went very bad for me, and I definitely need to prepare a little bit better for a different turn 1. So with that, here we are for game 3. Like I said, turn 1 was pretty much the main reason I lost, I think, in that point. I think I probably could have gotten there if I would have maybe attacked the Crobat instead, or maybe even done some other switch out. However, here I decided I want to switch up my lead a little bit and hope that it ends up helping out. And so they end up going to Crobat again and Haxorus. and I go with the Rotom Mow and the Cottony. So this one's definitely a little bit awkward. So, however, here they end up going for the double protect, and I just go for the Cotton Spore and Thunderbolt into the Crobat spot. However, the double protect prevents it from going. So next turn, I just go for the Cotton Spore again, lowering their speed. And in this situation, I decide to go for a foul play, reading that they're going to do something about my Thunderbolt. However, they just set up Tailwind. And the Poison Jab is able to bring down my Cottony to Sesh and poison me, and that poison ends up being huge because if I was able to get another Conspore off, I think I'd be in very good position. But here we just bring out the Roserade, and Roserade is able to threaten Haxorus with a Dazzling Gleam. However, the Protect Haxorus and the Dual Room Break kills me, which ends up being really awkward. However, I am able to kill the Crobat with a Thunderbolt, which is somewhat helpful. So definitely a little awkward. But now I'm definitely not the best position. I just bring out Credilli, and so here I think I just have to go for the double attack. And the Earth Power and Poison Jab ends up doing massive damage to both my Pokemon. However, the Leaf Storm missing Nidoqueen is really awkward, and the Meteor Beam going into Haxorus is able to get the kill. Leaf Storm probably doesn't kill Nidoqueen, but there's a chance it could, depending on if Nidoqueen is very not bulky. However, at this point, there's not much I can do. I just need to protect, hope that they do some misplay, and I'm stalling out a little bit of their Tailwind. And so here, they just go over the Sacred Sword. And at this point, I definitely think I'm dead. This game, the poison was really big, and it was definitely a little bit awkward. However, I don't know if there's much I could do. I definitely think I underprepared for the Choice Scarf Crobat, which definitely hurt me quite a bit. And with this, I get the second loss of my season. So with that, let's go into next week's match. Now, here we are for our week 6. Here's our week 6 match. So with that, we're now 3-2 plus 3, and this week's opponent is 2-3 minus 3. However, this opponent definitely doesn't look as concerning as the previous one. However, they do have some pretty concerning Pokemon, namely Talonflame. Talonflame having priority flying coverage and fire coverage is very good. However, on the plus side, it is very weak to rock, and pretty much any rock move should be able to one-shot it. Other than that, there's nothing that is too concerning. I expect Altaria is kind of one of the big other ones I'm expecting to see because I actually don't have great ice coverage, and so I most likely have to deal with rock coverage. And so with that, it ends up being pretty bulky and hard for me to deal with, especially if they have something like Roost. Other than that, Lopunny with Fake Out, having faster Fake Out is pretty concerning. And things like maybe like Executor setting up Trick Room could be a little annoying, which is why I do want some Trick Room answers. So going here, we see this is the team I decided to bring. Standard Credilli, we decided to have Gourgeist with Trick Room as a means to either unspeed my team or my opponent's team, especially if they are running the Talonflame and get my own Trick Room up. Or I can undo Trick Room if their team is very focused on Trick Room. Poltergeist and Shadow Sneak hit almost everything on their team, and then Grassy Guy kind of cleans up the rest. Shadow Sneak is really important as a means. If I have Trick Room up, I can break Gale Wings from Talonflame, so it can't hit me with priority flying moves when Trick Room is up. Next, we have Shiftry with Fake Out. It seems, that's pretty much its main idea, is Fake Out to prevent, some early turns and, Sucker Punch, Throw Chop, hit good damage to pretty much everything. And then the Brick Break is mainly for Kling Klang as the Stillmon. Next, we have Bulu with the Assault Vest. Assault Vest Bulu can survive most things. The AB can help it survive even some of the poison coverage, and then also definitely helps with heat waves or hurricanes or things like that. With being able to hit pretty much everything. Next, we have the Roserade. Grassy Sea gives it enough defense to survive some of the physical attackers, and other than that, the Energy Ball and Sludge Bomb do pretty good damage. And then finally, Virizion with Life Orb, Close Combat, and Stone Edge do massive damage into any of the Pokemon that are weak to it. And then we have Quick Guard specifically to deal with Talonflames, priority, dual wing beats, for example. And so with that, let's get into the match. Here we are for week 1. So looking at my opponent's team, I'm pretty much, they have a lot of the Pokemon I was expecting. I was not expecting to see Dedenne specifically, but I was expecting to see Kling, Executor, Talonflame, and Obstagoon. And so with that, them having a lot of the main Pokemon I was expecting, especially having multiple Trick Room setters, I decided to not really lean the Trick Room mode, and I decided to just go with a more fast and offensive mode. And let's get into the match. So I lead the Shiftry and the Virizion, and they end up leading the Talonflame and the Kling. So here, Virizion should threaten Kling with one-hit KO if it's not a Triple Berry. So I just faked out the Talonflame spot, which switched into Dedenne, and went for a close combat into the Kling, which gives me a clean one-hit KO because it is not Triple Berry. So with that, they bring back out Talonflame, and so here I decide to go for the quick guard, playing around Gelwing's flying move. However, they just go for Heat Wave instead, which definitely was not expecting, and they get a burn on my Virizion, and then the Electro Web is able to finish off the Shiftry. Definitely was not expecting them to go for a Heat Wave, but I guess it makes some amount of sense, especially because Talonflame is already faster, and so they end up going for the U-turn, which is able to finish up my Virizion and bring into the Executor, and I just go for the Meteor Beam after they get a 50% off on me with Super Fang, and the Meteor Beam goes into what was Talonflame but is now the Executor spot, which ends up doing massive damage. So here we bring out Tapu Bulu, and I plan to just finish off the Executor and hopefully kill the Dedenne. So I finish, they end up doubling up into the Credilli, just barely not killing because they were able to get a critical hit. However, I end up going for the Ancient Power and not finishing up the Dedenne. I considered doing Earth Power would have killed, and I wanted to click Earth Power. However, I thought it was too risky for the possible switch in of Talonflame. And so here the Talonflame comes in, does the Heat Wave, and they're able to hit me on the Electro Web, lowering my speed, and I just need to hit the Stone Edge. And luckily for me, they're not Focus Sash on the Talonflame, and that gives me the opportunity to get the win. I definitely feel like maybe I should have Earth Powered into the Dedenne at that point, because I definitely needed them to not be Focus Sash. However, with this, I'm able to get the win. I definitely think I got a little lucky there, but I definitely am happy to see that I got that game. And with that, let's get into game 2. With how game 1 went, I feel like I want to go with the Trick Room mode, because I don't think they're really expecting it, especially with how fast my team was. And so the plan is just, Shiftry and Gourgeist as the lead, and hoping that they don't really have a Trick Room answer. And so they end up bringing Obstagoon and Executor as their lead, and I end up going with Shiftry and Gourgeist, and we reveal that they are Choice Scarf and Room Service. And so here I just go for a fake out into the Obstagoon because I know it can't protect. I go for the Trick Room just to get under Trick Room, because Obstagoon is pretty concerning. So I go for the double up into the Obstagoon so that I can kill it, so it can't attack. I know it can't protect because it's Choice Scarf. And here they just go for a Flash Cannon and reveal Life Orb, which does very good damage into my Shiftry. So here I decide to just go for a double priority move with the hopes to kill the Executor before it can attack, even though it's faster than me because of Room Service. However, I just barely miss out on the KO, and the Sludge Bomb is able to kill my Shiftry, and the Flash Cannon does pretty good damage to my Gourgeist and gets a special defense drop. So here I bring in the Tapu Bulu, and it's pretty straightforward to just Shadow Sneak to finish off the Executor and go for a close combat and Kling. I happen to be faster than Kling, which is huge, and the close combat is able to get the kill, and I'm definitely in a commanding position at this point. And so now they bring in Talonflame, and I just go for a Shadow Sneak to break the Gelwings and go for a Stone Edge. However, I miss the Stone Edge, which lets them get off a Hurricane. However, they miss the Hurricane, which is pretty nice, so it kind of balances out in the end. And so now they end up going for another Hurricane, just barely missing out of the KO. And I go for another Stone Edge. However, I get the confusion, hit myself, which is a little bit sad for Tapu Bulu. However, I get Trick Room up, and I have another Pokemon in the back and 2 Pokemon that are slower than it. And here it's just clean Meteor Beam and Poltergeist as a means to try to get the win, and Meteor Beam connects, and I get the win. and I get a nice clean 2-0 win, and I'm feeling pretty good because with that, I'm able to get to my 4th win of the season, which very likely locks me in for playoffs. And actually, at the end of at the end of this week, I actually guaranteed a 2nd seed in playoffs based on what everyone's team records were at the time. And so I'm pretty happy with that. So with that, let's get into next week's match. And now we are for week 7, the final week of final match. So with our win on week 6, we end up guaranteed 2nd seed in playoffs, which is pretty good. But I definitely wanted to give a good fight because this week we were against a 3-3 -1 opponent who is fighting for their chances to make playoffs. So look at my opponent's team. Chandelure does massive damage to my team, is really concerning. Sigilyph is very concerning. Silvally is always a concerning Pokemon for a mono-type team, especially with mono grass, because they can run, they can run poison, they can run fire, they can run steel, because my team's pretty weak to steel. They can run flying. They have a lot of good options, and so it's hard for me to play around Silvally specifically. In addition, I think Sarina is actually very good into my team. Preventing me from faking out with Shiftry is very powerful, and also it having ice coverage and fighting coverage hits a lot of my team for super effective. Other than that, I can imagine them having some sort of Trick Room components with either Copperajah or Guzzlord. However, with that, I decided to go with this as my team. So Cordelia, pretty much the standard set. There's not much to talk about. Power Meteor Beam. Next, we have the Appleton with Thick Fat, which is the only Pokemon on my team that can resist fire coverage. So it's going to be really good as a switch-in for the Chandelure. I have the Amnesia, Iron Defense, both to increase their defense and special defense with Body Press, and then Dragon Pulse mainly to hit the Chandelure and Sigilyph. But the idea is that if I can offensively pressure with one of my partner Pokemons, namely Virizion and Tapu Bulu, and set up an Iron Defense or an Amnesia, it should be pretty hard for my opponents to deal with it. Next, we have Gourgeist, bulky Super Gourgeist, which has Trick Room with Will-O-Wisp to deal with some of their physical attackers, Foul Play, which does pretty good damage to a lot of their more offensive mons, and is even super effective into the more special mons because their main special mons are Chandelure and Sigilyph. And then we have Poltergeist just because, good stab damage. Virizion, I decided to go with Choice Band, Stone Edge, Close Combat, Megahorn, and Leaf Blade, all threaten to kill certain Pokemon. However, even with the Choice Band, Virizion's space attack isn't the greatest. So some of these, depending on their bulk, are not even guaranteed. Like it does not guarantee one-shot Sigilyph, but it can with Stone Edge, depending on the specific bulk of them. Close Combat can kill Copperajah, but depends on the item they have, and a couple other Pokemon like that. Next up, we have Shiftry. Shiftry is pretty straightforward. Fake Out with Icy Wind, Dark Pulse, Hurricane. Hurricane's mainly as a means to do lots of damage to Serena. Icy Wind to just get a little bit of speed control, and then Dark Pulse just for stab, super effective damage. Finally, we have Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu, the reason I went with Choice Scarf is because I cannot actually guarantee survive an attack from Chandelure or an attack from some of the other Pokemon. And so I decided that I'm not going to expect Tapu Bulu to survive many attacks and just go for a means to outspeed and then maybe get a one-hit KO and then let it die at the end. And so with that, let's get into the match. So here we are for game 1. Looking at my opponent's team, they pretty much have what I expect, namely the Chandelure, Sigilyph, Silvally, and Serena. I wasn't too much expecting the Electabuzz, but I was expecting Copperajah or Guzzlord to come. So looking at my opponent's team, they end up not bringing any Pokemon that is faster than Virizion, so Virizion looks very good offensively. And a main decision is whether I should lead Tapu Bulu or Shiftry as my lead. I decided to lead Shiftry because I think Fake Out just seems very powerful. And so with that, let's get into the match. And so as I said, we lead the Virizion and the Shiftry, and they end up leading the Serena and the Sigilyph. So I can't Fake Out because of Serena, which is a little bit awkward. And so I just go for an Icy Wind and a Stone Edge into the Sigilyph spot. So they end up protecting the Sigilyph, which prevents my Stone Edge, and however, the Icy Wind does connect and lower the speed of Serena. However, the Triple Axle ends up connecting with all three, killing my Virizion and making my Virizion do absolutely nothing, which is really sad. And they also their Siglith also gets burned, revealing Flame Orb, which is a little bit awkward. Here we just end up going with Stone Edge and the Tapu Bulu, killing the Siglith and outspeeding because of Choice Scarf, which is really big. And I connect to Hurricane, killing the Serena, which is also very big. So I'm definitely feeling pretty good after this turn. And they end up bringing Silvally and Chandelure. Their Silvally reveals itself to be Ice. And so here I just go for the double up in Chandelure, hoping to get a kill, because I think that's the easiest Pokemon to kill. The multi-attack ends up killing the Silvally. However, I'm able to kill Chandelure before it attacks, because Shiftry is fast. And with this, I'm able to bring out Credilli and get a clean Meteor Beam into it. I take the multi-attack, and the Dark Pulse plus Meteor Beam combination is enough to kill the Silvally. However, I feel like I'm in pretty good position even if this double up didn't kill, because I do have 2 Pokemon and Shiftry's at Focus Sash. So anyways, that game went very good. And with that, let's get into game 2. Game 1 went well, and I'm just kind of thinking about what the best thing I can kind of do for this. And I feel like because they seem like they want to lead Serena, I feel like Verzian and Tapu Bulu seem like a very good lead. They should outspeed and one-shot almost everything on the team, or their double up should be able to pretty much kill anything on the team. And I like that as a lead. I also like Appleton in the back to deal with maybe Chandelure. And so with that, let's get into the match. We see that they lead Serena again, and they lead Chandelure this time. And I lead the Virizion and the Tapu Bulu. So I can threaten to kill Chandelure or the Serena, but I can't kill both because of the Focus Sash. I went for the Mega Horn to one-shot Serena, however I missed, which ends up being sad. And then I went for the Stone Edge into the Chandelure, which ends up surviving on the Focus Sash. So I end up not getting any kills, and the Heat Wave is able to kill the Virizion, and then the Triple Axle is able to double connect and kill the Virizion. So I'll lose both Pokemon, and all that happens is bring Chandelure down to its Focus Sash. So definitely a little bit awkward, definitely a very bad turn 1. However, with that, I'm able to bring out Credilli and Appleton. And so here I just go for an Iron Defense and a Meteor Beam. The U-turn from the Serena does massive damage. Ends up being really awkward for me. However, I am able to get the Meteor Beam, which increases my special attack. So it's definitely overkill, but I definitely feel the need to get that special attack boost. And with the Iron Defense and the healing from grassy terrain and leftovers, Appleton is looking pretty good, especially since they only have physical attackers after they reveal Silvally here. So here I go for Protect and Credilli because I feel like it's pretty safe. And they just go for another U-turn into my Appleton and bring back out Serena. And I get another Iron Defense up. So now I'm at +4 defense. And I feel like there's a chance that Appleton might be able to break through this my opponent's team. And so here we just go for the Earth Power with the into the Copperajah and a Body Press into it. And sadly, they hit all 3 triple axles and are able to kill the Credilli. And the Appleton at +4 is not able to kill because Copperajah is holding a Chople Berry, which is a little awkward. However, the Heavy Slam still does pretty good damage, even though I'm at +4. Sadly, the grassy terrain is slowly expiring, so I'm not in the best shape. And not only that, they also get a triple hit with triple axle again, which is pretty unlucky. However, we are able to kill Copperajah, but I'm definitely not feeling great because if they're able to get triple hits on the triple axle, I'm definitely in bad shape. And so here I just go for another Body Press, and the multi-attack does pretty good damage, and they're able to get a crit on their triple attack and end up getting the game. Definitely a little sad. I was thinking that Appleton might be able to sweep this game. However, having multiple Pokemon with ice coverage definitely doesn't help. And the Chople Berry definitely hurt. But with that, let's get into game 3. Here we are for game 3. Based on what happened in game 2, I definitely think I want to change up my lead. My thought is maybe lead something like Credilli. This definitely makes a Chandelure lead less impressive. And with that, I think maybe Tapu Bulu seems like a good lead as well because it doesn't get threatened to be one-shot by some of the flying Pokemon. And so with that, let's get into the match. And so they end up bringing Electabuzz and Serena. So I'm very happy with them bringing Electabuzz over something else. And so here I just go for the Mega Horn for the one shot into the Serena, which ends up connecting, which is really big. And I just go for a Meteor Beam. They go for the Thunder Wave, which is pretty awkward, but honestly is not that big of a deal because I'm fine with them statusing me because I'm able to get a little bit, I'm getting 60% off with the Meteor Beam. And so here they bring in Sigalith, and I was debating between attacking Electabuzz, but I decided to just go for the double up with the Mega Horn and the Ancient Power into the Sigalith with the hopes of killing it. They go for the double up, I get a full paralysis by Tapu Bulu, but luckily I don't get flinched by the Air Slash, and I'm able to gain Sigalith really low to its HP. And so here I just go for a, well, they go for the Electro Web, lowering my speed, and I decide to just go for the double up and Sigalith again. Tapu Bulu ends up killing with the Mega Horn this time. However, they get the flinch with the Air Slash. And so, however, I'm in very good shape, especially because I can threaten both of these Pokemon very good. I just go for the Protect and Cordeli, expecting a attack into it, and they go for the Volt Switch into the Tapu Bulu, and the multi-attack does go into Cordeli as I expected. I luckily do not get the full paralysis, and the Mega Horn goes into the Electabuzz, finishing it off. And now this game is in commanding position on my side. They only have one Pokemon left, all four of my Pokemon. The multi-attack ends up going into Cordeli, finishing it off, and I'm able to get another Mega Horn hit, which does almost 50%. And now it pretty much guaranteed win because we can bring in Verzian, which should guarantee outspeed, and we have a clean close combat, which is able to get the kill. And with that, we're able to win. So with that, we end up with a 5-2 during the season. So definitely a big win. Sadly, we actually knocked this coach out of the playoffs with this win. However, we are guaranteed we guaranteed our playoff spot, and I'm very happy with that. And let's get into the wrap up. And with that, that is the end of our regular season. We successfully finished with a 5-2 record, getting the second seed in playoffs. So next week I'll probably have my first match of playoffs, and hopefully I can get there. I'll be playing against Cosmic Kyle, the opponent that I played and lost to in week 4. But with that, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.